It's Monday morning and we're back. Thank you guys so much for joining me for this week's Time in the Word. On this day one, we are looking at the song My Worship. This is a song that the Lord laid in my heart a few years ago when I was in a unique season, and I am so grateful. It transformed my heart and my understanding for worship. Before we get to the song, I want to just share with you guys the verse that has been laid on my heart today, and I'm coming to you from Romans chapter 6, starting at verse 12. Let not sin therefore reign in your mortal body, to make you obey its passions. Do not present your members to sin as instruments for unrighteousness, but present yourselves to God and those who have been brought from death to life, and your members to God as instruments for righteousness. For sin will have no dominion over you, since you are not under law, but under grace. There were years that I spent completely distracted by little things in my life, insecurities, jealousy, pride, fear, not feeling up to par to be a part of God's plan and his mission and the things he was doing in life. And a lot of that, I believe, connected to the brokenness within me. And then those different areas of my life eventually started reflecting more of a sin nature, such as just celebrating with people and seeing how the way things were flowing in my life would lead to me with jealousy, being upset with people, and not even openly sharing that, or not even realizing sometimes that that's how I was pursuing relationships, or not pursuing relationships and friendships and different things in my life, not allowing myself to connect to people because my sin nature at that time was to wonder, why am I not having what they're having? Why am I not receiving what they're receiving? Why am I not as good as they are? In doing that, I feel like it kept me from seeing who God really was through my worship. It kept me from being able to be free and accepting who I was and where I was. I strongly believe that sin shows itself in many different ways, and sometimes we start looking at the extreme based on the human scale of sin. But sin is just the same small, simple thought of not loving one another, not celebrating with one another, not valuing a neighbor or a friend or someone in life with us. Having the opportunity to elevate people sometimes can cause tension within us, and it can bring out a human nature, a sin nature that will not allow us to celebrate when something great is happening in someone else's life. And then we become very jealous of that person. Or it's the other way. We get very prideful. If it is us, it's who it's happening to. I found myself in a season where, in the musical aspect, I was not able to, in the beginning, comprehend if everything was stripped away, what would happen. And then I start seeing the reality of, if everything was stripped away from me musically, then what would my worship be? And then I started realizing that I needed to re-understand and redefine within my heart what worship really was. Because it had to be more than just a song, because if I lost the music, then did that mean I could no longer worship God? Did that mean I no longer had anything else to offer? When I started processing through that and spending time in the Word more and being able to see that worship is a lifestyle and it's so much more, and as my sin nature grows, it keeps me from worshiping fully the way God has called me to, or created me to, or desires for me to worship him. I had to get to the place of realizing that my worship should be much more than that. In doing that, I started seeing areas in my life where Christ was not number one. There were others where he was great and mighty, but then the ones that he wasn't was actually weighing more and more on me and creating this very unbalanced system, this hot, this cold, and then creating what the Bible teaches us not to be lukewarm area, where when those two cross, that's where I was just teeter-tottering and staying. I say that today hoping that if you have found yourself trying to process through something that keeps you from being who you really know you are, or leading others the way you feel called, or serving others the way you feel called, sometimes it could just be that little still voice of human nature telling us that we're not worthy enough, or saying, well, why would someone listen to you because of what you've done? Or, man, you are so much better than that person. Psh, why would you even? Well, I want to tell you guys that we have been called to do life together, to speak life into each other. But if it had not been for grace, the grace that we are under, the grace that we are covered in, the grace that we celebrated yesterday, the freedom that we've been given, then we would all find ourselves completely broken from every situation around us. Because the enemy uses the truth, which we are sinners and we have brokenness. He uses that to make us believe that we are not worth the Lord's love, that he can do nothing with us. And when we start believing that about ourselves, it's kind of hard to celebrate with other people. It's kind of hard to worship with other people. So for me, I had to dial back and just realize that, God, you created me for a reason. And in the midst of all my sin and all my failures, I am covered by grace. I chose you, I choose you, and I still want to stand firm on you. I am not perfect and I make mistakes, but I choose Jesus. And in choosing Jesus, my worship began to articulate itself differently in my heart. I began to see things differently. I began to understand my own brokenness and being able to celebrate life with people, give that same grace that I had been given so freely to people. But the key thing was, I needed to give it to myself more than anyone else. When I began to accept and understand the grace that God had laid on me in the way that I could press into him, experience his love and his mercy, and truly accept the grace that he had given me, I was able to stand. I was able to worship greater. I've been able to now, in this season that I have really let things go, I've been able to really allow the Lord to just have his way and to see other people succeed and want to see them to succeed. My worship is more than a song. It is my heart's desire to see God move, and I pray that for us today. May this week be so focused in on us releasing and releasing our old, receiving the new grace of God so that we can celebrate others as well. You gave your life to fill all that was empty, and it was your blood that truly cleansed me, no longer paralyzed by the shame of my failures. Take this life, use it as you please. Break my heart, bring me to my knees. Have your way, Lord, have your way. We're ending with that part today of verse 1. And literally that is my prayer for you, is to allow the Lord to have his way. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I look forward to journeying through the chorus of this song tomorrow. You guys have a blessed day. I will see you here tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time.